They're really helpful component of your pre-built process. As I said, then, the designer who can create those drawings, they can help pull that information, the concept ideas that you've got, understand the reasoning behind your build or your renovation and what you want, what the objectives from that you want to be and what's your goals. And then they can create the concept designs, which then in turn, if you're happy, then can become working drawings that will be used in your construction. And that's what the builder and the other trades will use to make sure that they can bring the visual concept into the reality and the construction components in the pre-build process.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome back to Builders Beyond Borders podcast. My name's Paul. I'm from Independent Building Solutions in Canberra. With me today, I've got Louise from Perway Constructions over in Perth and Hugh from New Realm Homes down in Melbourne. Today, we're going to have a bit of chat about the various different trades you need to build a house. There's quite a few of them. You pretty much need all trades right through, excluding sort of the butcher, baker and candlestick maker, I guess. You need the rest, don't you, pretty much? All the way from you got consultants, you got engineers, surveyors, certifiers and all that sort of stuff right through from an excavator driver right through to the painter and the cleaner at the end, I guess. So I'll go to you, Louise. Do you want to have a bit of a run through the various different trades that you deal with daily over there in the office?
I think it's an important thing to raise because I think especially people that aren't familiar with building and aren't aware, it's easy for us when we're walking the walk and talking the talk, and this is part of who we are, that we just assume that everybody knows, this trade is used for this and that trade's used for that. So, I think it's a good educational points to give out to help people, just even to understand who would be coming to my house today to do these particular items. So for us, we do mainly deal with the renovation side of things. So starting off with for our starting from the beginning, for the pre-build portion of the works before you even get to construction, we deal with the consultants, and that can be for your designer, who's going to help with the plans. Then you've got your interior designer who can help with helping you understand the components of the materials that you want to use within your home, the colors, the patterns that you want. They can also help with the selections, taking you to the suppliers to feel items, to look at them, to visualize that, that they're really helpful component of your pre-built process. As I said, then, the designer who can create those drawings, they can help pull that information, the concept ideas that you've got, understand the reasoning behind your build or your renovation and what you want, what the objectives from that you want to be and what's your goals. And then they can create the concept designs, which then in turn, if you're happy, then can become working drawings that will be used in your construction. And that's what the builder and the other trades will use to make sure that they can bring the visual concept into the reality and the construction components. In the pre-build process, there's also your engineers that are used for, the consultants, that they have to make sure what's designed can be built in terms of like structural, making sure that the loading and the weights and things like that are correct, that, you're not just building a wall that'll look nice. It has to be structurally sound. So that's another component that's added in. You've also got your energy assessment advisors who can, talk about your BAL assessments. We've also deal with the engineers. Yeah, that's a thing at the minute. Unless you can fill me in on some other that I'm forgetting now. Just in terms of that pre-construction component, and to make sure everything's signed before building. Is there any of them that I'm forgetting?
There's a lot of consultants, isn't there? Like you've got to get an energy rating sometimes, or a
Yeah,
glazing calculator. You've got to get the building certified, but then sometimes you need a surveyor. What time you need a surveyor, you need a survey, or you need it, set out. So there's a lot of things involved before you even actually turn the soil on the site, isn't there? That's right.
Yeah. So, and I suppose once you've got all of those components correct, then then you're set up properly. Then for the construction aspect, which opens another door of lots of people involved that will be used to create your dream home.
And it's a logistical job, just trying to coordinate them all too, which is what a lot of people will not realise. Yeah, it's all well and good to say, oh, you need this trade to come and do this job, but when you're doing from start to finish, you've got to try and coordinate them all, get them all there when you need them, sort of thing, without them stepping on top of each other as well. And that can be hard too, especially when everyone's busy. You want to try and give them as much notice as you can so that you can get your job booked in. But then you've got to try and get the start dates to all land in the right place as well, and especially if the trade before them gets held up or goes a bit slower, or doesn't turn up, or you get bad weather. It's a constant juggle, isn't it? So yeah, I'll go over to you then, Hugh, and have a bit of a chat maybe about some of the experience you've had with coordinating all the trades.
Oh, look, it's a fun thing when it comes to all the trades, and even to what Louise was sort of referring to there. I mean, once you're in pre-construction, I mean, the amount of, I guess you'd say, confusion or misconception about what's sort of needed. Like, I'll just give you a small example now. I've been overlooking a project at the moment where it's not a huge project, but we're talking about just a replacement of a garage / carport that's got a few moving parts that comes into it, and there's, I guess you could say, the confusion for the clients, especially right back early on who they're going to need and when they're going to need them, is going to be fraught with danger. Just because, depending on what they're trying to do, and if the job is complicated, they're not going to know. Well, and this purely based on Victoria, because everybody around Australia, they have different terms for different people. So, like when you talk about a certifier, in Victoria, it's a building surveyor, which in Victoria is then, once again, it's different to a land surveyor. So when it comes to this particular project that we've been working with a client on, because there's a subdivision that needs to be applied to this, that complicates the process even further, because then the land surveyor has to come in, but they might get confused that a land surveyor is the building surveyor, and they're going to approve the building permits, and who handles all this sort of thing. Obviously, as a builder, where we sort of know those ins and outs, and it makes it relatively easy for us to be able to sort of navigate through the different people. But yeah, I mean, when it does come to it, it's always going to be challenging, because there's going to be something that's going to come up and say, oh well, when it comes to just say changing a crossover, which for anybody that doesn't know what a crossover is, I'll dumb this down a little bit and make it relatively easy to understand. Crossover is the part of concrete, or might be out of some other materials depending on the areas. It's part of the property, but not your property, but council's property, between your boundary line and the road. And that crossover is the access way to get into a driveway, your driveway, up to your garage, carport, whatever it may be. And when it comes to that, there's a lot of times that you're not going to know that going back to council, you're going to need some extra permits and do all this sort of thing. So when it comes to the trades that are going to be involved, you're dealing with a council, and let's just say, for instance, we call them a trade. Why not? Just because sometimes they can be, they can't be. But the ins and outs of actually navigating that, and understanding that when you start talking about those different things, the extra trades, the extra people, the extra professionals that are going to be involved, and the permits that you have to do just for one simple little part of concrete is sometimes it can be phenomenal. And And not to dismiss anybody's knowledge or anything like that, but it just sort of, it adds up and adds to the costs on projects, and it can really start to get very confusing. And don't worry, there's days that we get confused by it and go, why do all these extra people have to be involved when it's such a simple thing as just putting in from our boundary to the road, a little bit of concrete, and all these extra little hurdles are put in there. But that's just some of the pre-construction stuff before you even get into actually doing the work. And then once you're in there doing the work, and you can have all these special conditions on a project, and you might end up with 5 extra trades that haven't been accounted for in the planning process. And I've seen that happen a number of times. And yeah, that's always fun when someone gets the surprise. And as I think we've spoken about before, then variations come into it and changes the whole complexity of the project. And sometimes, the experience can be fraught with danger.
So I think that, as I said, some people aren't aware of all of the trades that do come through. So just say the construction started. What would you say then? Talk us through. So I'm not technical, so I'm not thinking about those homeowners that are, aren't technical either. They don't understand the concepts of what has to be done. So let's start off with the groundsworks. What's the trades that need to be used for groundsworks?
At the start of a job, the groundworks, generally it's going to be a couple of guys that are going to be doing some excavation, and most of the time, and even just before we even get to excavating, you're going to have either a land surveyor that'll come in and set the project out, so you know exactly where everything's going to be.
And they're the little pegs that go round in that little line that goes round. So that's like the boundary saying, okay, that your work's going to be carried out in this part of the area.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it at the moment, Lou, that you're not the one that's out on the tool, so pulling us back and going, hey, talk about this in a way that we can actually understand. And when homeowners are out there and they can understand the technical talk, that's great. But if they can't understand the technical talk, let's just make it easy and just go with little pegs in the ground over there,
and the little line
that say
piece of rope, the little flags.
This little square is where we're building, guys, and that's where your wall's going to be. That's great. I mean, there are companies that even go out of their way and big factories, and they have they can project the plans down onto the ground so you can get a feel of what's going on. It would be nice to be able to say we could do that, but who knows? With 3D printing of homes coming in, anything's possible. Now, when it comes to that, I've got no idea, but I've seen it. But we won't get into that. But when it comes to the people that are involved, just in the initial stages of the groundworks, you go through your land surveyor, pegs it all out, and just says that's where you're building. Guys come in, they bring their big machines, they start digging up the ground and removing soil if that needs to go. That goes into a couple of trucks and gets carted to someone's house and dumped on their front lawn. We've seen that happen.
Or disposed of properly, Hugh.
It's disposed of properly. People ask for things on their front lawn, and believe you me, I've seen that many times. They're like, "Oh, free soil, just dump it on my front lawn," and then they end up with a truckload, and they just go, "I wasn't expecting that much." Holy crap!
Especially if it's half full of concrete rubbish.
So the guys dig out, and then is there any what's the trade that's called? I'm going to say that levels the ground. Is that still the same trade?
Generally, that'll be the excavation guys. They'll come in and they'll do what's called what we call a site cut, which is basically clearing it, making sure that it's ready for whatever works are going to go on after that. And sometimes the same excavation guys might be doing some of the footing work or slab work and that sort of thing as well. And sometimes they can be sort of one and the same. And I don't know, Paul, if you've sort of experienced guys that maybe the concreters or someone like that, where they sort of part out that work with the excavation, or they have their own excavators that come in and do the work, and they clear everything for us and leave it so that we can just go into the next part.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, sometimes the concreters have their own equipment, own machinery, and do it themselves. But if they don't, usually it's the excavator guy gets it reasonably close, and then the concreters will tidy it all up in their prep work they do before they pour it, sort of thing. Yeah, that's right. That's the way we do it up here too.
So sometimes it can be carpenters that do all those footings, which is, again, I'm going to say the framing out for the concrete to be poured in. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm being simple. um, so it can be either. It depends on what packages, what subcontractors, and what trades you are. Whether they'll do that form work. It could be a carpenter aspect, or it could be a concreter. It could be part of their job. Is that right?
In the residential side of things, it's pretty much concrete is just do the formwork, because it's pretty basic sort of stuff. Because formwork carpentry is actually a specialised trade in commercial, particularly on the bigger stuff where there is a lot of timber and a lot of propping and supporting and shoring and all that sort of stuff is carried out by formwork carpenters. But we don't work in that industry, do we? None of us do. So it's usually the concreters that carry out the formwork for the concrete in the residential.
Okay, yes. So sometimes in our jobs, we've got, I suppose, because we've got carpenters on the team, and then it's just a part. Again, it's just a different approaches. So they normally with the carpenters that do that, and then working with the concrete team then for the pour and.
Depends on the job a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah,
too? Because if we get something that's a bit tricky or a bit more specialised, then the carpenters we have to get in and help the concreters out, because it's a bit beyond. Really,
Yeah.
so we work with them sometimes to get it where they want it. Because they're not and they don't have the tools and the equipment either for doing the specialised sort of formwork stuff.
Yeah. So then we've got the slab.
So before we even get to slab, generally there'll be the guys that come in and put the sewer and pipes and that sort of thing for getting rid of everybody's waste and that sort of thing. That'll all get done, and sometimes there'll be some electrical works there as well, just making sure that all that's sort of servicing up to where everything's going to be built as well. So yeah, before concrete is even poured, there's still a few trades that sort of come through, and who knows, there may be some other fun ones if you're putting hydronics into a slab as well. So yeah, anything's possible. And then difference with construction is it could then also change from being concrete to being a subfloor, and being carpenters then come in instead of concreters, and they go in and they start putting stumps in, or they could be doing other little bits and pieces, or bricklayers might even come in and do part of it as well. So there's lots of different parts of once you sort of get to that stage, but it all depends on how the house is being built, what it's being built out of, and what's been sort of specified there. So yeah, makes for fun before you even get to putting a frame up.
General run-of-the-mill houses, project houses sort of done mainly on slabs these days here, particularly the blocks are flat. But I think over there where you are, Louise, it's sand, isn't it? So I think all the houses are built on raft slabs because it's because of the base you've got over there. I'm not sure whether you're on that, but I'm 90% sure that there's timber floors pretty rare in the West. At ground level anyway, I should say,
Yeah. I think the majority of ours are the concrete slabs, but it depends on what, I know there's timber joists and things like that, but yeah, that's Andy's section. That's what I like.
Your 2-story houses will be all timber floors on the first floor.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty sure they'd be all. We'll have to ask Andy next time he's on there. Concrete on the green. I think that's why. I'm pretty sure in the Perth area it's sand everywhere. So
majority.
Doesn't make for a good footing, good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But down over here, they're all doing the waffle pods are very popular these days. But most houses are a concrete slab if they're just a standard project home on a reasonably flat block.
Yeah.
And when I say reasonably flat, they still do side cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly deep and quick with slabs these days because they're just quicker and easier. They'll last forever, really. You got no problem to track with them. Mm-hmm.
Now we've got to framing. So then that's going to be like timber framing, steel framing. Same trades can do both. Carpenter?
Generally, yeah.
Carpenter generally?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they do here anyway. The steel frames are not as popular here. The timber frames are a lot more popular, but the steel frames have become a lot more popular in the last few years to what they were. Back during the COVID and that sort of stuff when everyone was struggling to get materials. Timber especially was a big problem. Steel frames became a bit more popular. I think a couple of the builders decided to stay with them because they found they were quicker and they were working out okay cost-wise. So they seem to do the job. They seem to work. So. And that's, again, I think you're more solid brick too, I think, over there in the west too.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was reading because we deal mainly with timber frames within Perway, and I was reading some statistics yesterday from a report, and it was a few years ago, but it was definitely timber framing in every state is bigger, a lot bigger than the steel frame versus WA, and it's the opposite. We've there's a smaller percentage of houses that are built of timber frame, and then the majority percentage is steel frame and double brick as well, with brick as well. And I think it's to do, a lot of it is to do with, again, that, the sand and the factors in that, and also the access to the materials. But yeah, that's, for us, we are trying to implement that change and, sort of showing homeowners how timber framing is more effective, more sustainable, and it's a really good material to use. So, but it's a different balance compared to the rest of the states. So it's an interesting information.
It's probably more of a cost thing over our way. I think, I don't know about down there.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh's probably similar too. Like the timber gyprock walls are just a lot quicker. Plasterboard walls, insulated plasterboard walls, a lot quicker and a lot cheaper than brick walls, and I think that's why predominantly that's the way it's gone. But the brick veneer house has always been the most common house in the Canberra area ever since I've been here anyway. I think probably the same down your way, Hugh, in Victoria.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I mean, Victoria was a lot of weatherboard homes, which is one of the things that we specialise in. But traditionally, yeah, between weatherboard and brick veneer is pretty much the standard down here. And one of the things that we do know, I mean, when it does come to any kind of double brick, single skin brick, whatever it may be, because we're waiting on bricklayers to come in and lay the bricks, and then of course after that's been done, you've got solid rendering that goes onto it, and getting good solid renderers in Victoria. I mean, it's been one of those things where a lot of people getting into that trade in particular has slowed down. And so the guys are fully booked up, and when they're fully booked up, it just adds more time onto build times.
So Hugh, what's renders? That's the external part of the home with and it's that feature then that's going to be whether it's going to be wood or paneling or whatever. Is that what you mean by the render?
So there's probably a couple of different sort of styles, and so when I sort of speak about solid render, it's probably more specifically solid plastering. Yep. And so while it still sort of falls under a similar category to render, basically it's a cement base, and then they put a very smooth, fine finish over the top of it that makes it look like plaster, but it's still basically just render, sand, cement, and that sort of thing that's smoothed off and made to look pretty, like a nice, pretty wall. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And so then people aren't using plasterboard, but then render is basically everything that's put onto external and homes. If they got brickwork or blue board, foam, all the different types of finishes.
So then plasterers, bricklayers, or carpenters then would be used then for that render, depending on what materials then are used.
Yeah, they'd be used for the base before a renderer comes in to finish it off. Because getting someone like myself as a carpenter to render a wall, I've done it myself.
Well, you're not a specialist.
That's certainly an art form in itself. I'm not a specialist in that, so you wouldn't ask me to do any rendering.
And that's a bit of a dying trade too up our way. I don't know about down there, but there's doesn't there's many guys coming through. There's certainly not apprentices doing that anymore. I'm not sure if it's even an apprentice trade anymore. It's a self-taught thing where you learn from someone, and even bricklayers and that are becoming a lot rarer. So it's hard to get them. Yeah, so that can be an issue, can't it?
It can be. And look, it'd be great to see apprenticeships being actually sort of focused on back in schools and that sort of thing. As more of an option, because at the end of the day, like having young kids myself, seeing them sort of come up and where they're going to take their lives, and whether there is more people getting into trades at the moment, it's one of those things. We're just sort of seeing that people are preferring to do other things that are easier, and fair credit to them. but we still need people to be building houses, and building buildings, and doing all that sort of thing. If we're losing the trades, well, houses aren't going to get built, and then move on to the next stage of building, and you need how many more different people to actually finish off a house from once you get the frame up and get the brickwork up or whatever it may be going on the outside of the house. Once you're on the inside, your plasterers, then your tilers, your cabinet makers, the floorers, whoever it may be. You've got all of these different guys that are going to be coming in. Yeah, we're going to need
you've
more.
got your plumbers and electricians and air conditioning guys and all that sort of stuff too in between, haven't you? So there seems to be still plenty of them around, doesn't there? But the other trades are certainly getting a lot rarer. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting in another generation to see where it's at, because hopefully they've got these 3D printers you were talking about working. So I guess they're going to have someone to operate them, aren't they?
Well, if we start talking about 3D printing houses, I mean that's a proposition when you see the way that they are sort of constructed, and yes, there's a lot of cement based product that goes into the homes, but then the different style of actually constructing it is going to be very similar to double brick homes. So I reckon when it comes to it, someone like Louise and Andy over there in WA are probably going to have more of a skill set that's going to be suited to actually making that sort of thing work.
Do you have problems getting renderers or plasterers, Louise, or is it not something you're sure about? You'd have to check with Andy on that, would you too? Because I'm sure you're using them all the time, wouldn't you? Pretty regularly?
Yeah, we do. Most of our jobs require plasterers. For more internals, a majority of our external renders are like cladding, if I'm talking correctly. As I said, this is I can speak to Andy. Oh yeah, the external walls and the internal walls and the plaster. Like I speak very basic to him, so
he knows what you're talking about.
Yes. So I hope you do too. But then hopefully I'm on the homeowner side whenever they're going, whoa, what's this? What's this about? So we'll hopefully give them more information. But majority of our jobs, again, as I said, we do timber framing. So it's that the external clad, and then majority of projects are like that. Jim Hardy, cladding, boarding. So not a lot of plasters that we use internally, but I know that Andy does struggle to get good quality plasterers on the jobs. We've had a few that are the good quality ones that have come through before are usually booked out for the next ones. So it is a quality control aspect that we do struggle with, and in terms of getting the right trades that are up in alignment with the quality of works that we expect. So that's the struggle, rather than there's just not a huge amount to choose from either.
It's one of those things, isn't it? We could do a whole other episode, or probably series of episodes, just on being able to define what is quality from trades, and whether we can actually find out before we sort of engage them, and whether they're going to sort of meet the standard that we're sort of expecting. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we know that there's expectations from everybody on how things are going to be finished, and that's a whole other story though when it comes to trades. So. And
when you're talking about plasters as well, those like even the specialized ones. I know that we did a job I think it was actually last year. It was like a Venetian plaster in a bathroom, and that was really hard to find. Even just the more and even within a trade, and the more specialized version, and then the numbers come down again. So it's it's good to, again, the planning to be done in advance, so that you can schedule to sort of connect with the quality trades that you want, and sort of have that communication and have them booked out well in advance before that you're coming up to that job. They're a dying breed.
Yeah, I think a lot of trades are. That's right.
Sure.
It's interesting, isn't it? But it would be good to have a chat to Andy sometime, actually, about the construction methods of the WA areas, or the Western Australia area, particularly around Perth, because it sounds like traditionally it might have changed a little bit from what it was traditionally. It might have changed a little bit too. So I think they were pretty much all solid brick rendered inside and out back in back in the earlier days.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, thanks, guys. Looking at the clock on the wall, we're going to have to call it a day at that. So yeah, thanks for joining us again, and take care. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.